Today we're taking a look at the Be Quiet Lightbase 500LX case. Thanks to Be Quiet for sending this one over for us to take a look at. The Lightbase case series of cases from Be Quiet really made a splash when they were first released with the updated case designs. We had the 900, which is a huge case, and it kind of supports everything in terms of configuration. We had the 600, which is a smaller, but definitely still pretty large case, and also very configurable. And now we have the super competitive 500 series option. The Lightbase 500 is smaller than the 600, but it does still support full ATX motherboards and nearly any length GPU at 400mm worth of support. And we can pretty much install any air cooler with a max height of 185mm. We have support for up to 10 total system fans, which is quite a lot for this tier of case in my opinion, and it's super geared towards supporting water cooling, since we can fit up to a 360mm AIO in the top and potentially a 240mm AIO on the side, of course depending on how large your GPU is and your exact configuration. There's also 3 120mm fan mounts at the bottom of the case too, which will definitely come in handy for custom loop applications, or if you really want to concentrate some powerful air cooling on your GPU. This case is of course a split chamber design. The main chamber is where all the components go. It's nice, clean setup. And then you have the rear side of the case where you've got the power supply, the extra cables, potentially some 2.5-inch or 3.5-inch drives. I do like the side fans on this case. They're angled instead of being flat, and we've got a good amount of space in terms of cable management to deal with that, even with that taking up a little more space. I also really like that because these are angled. That airflow pattern should be a little bit nicer than most of the other fishbowl cases. Sometimes the airflow pattern and the straight-on ones can bounce off in weird ways, and it doesn't always reflect in the most efficient cooling. I think this will definitely help with that. The design change also gives us an actual fan tray for pre-mounting those fans. The fan tray pulls straight out, and in my opinion, I really like this addition to the case. It's also pretty cool that in terms of design, you do have that open air gap right behind the front I/O panel. I like it, it's definitely unique looking, and I think people are going to really enjoy that if you take your PC around and show it off at like a LAN party or something. So yeah, the front look of the case is pretty slick in my opinion. Of course, we do have a magnetic air filter, which is nice on the top, and a tray filter on the bottom. Very handy for maintaining your PC over time when dust collects. As for the version of the case that I have, this is of course the LX version. It comes with the 4 included LX fans, but you can actually pick the 500 up without any fans if you're looking to go with a different fan model or you have to save a couple of bucks. That being said, if you buy the LX model, the value for money is 100% there in my opinion. For the cost of the LX over the DX model, you're going to save quite a bit of money in terms of fans and build time because those fans are already pre-installed. These are relatively nice fans as well. At max RPM, they put out about 51.5 CFM with about 1.3 millimeters of pressure, according to Be Quiet, at about 1600 RPM. Of course, we do have the LX ARGB lighting, which I am fond of. I like the lighting design, and I think it really complements the case in general. These LX fans are basically silent too. They come in at about 25.5 dBA according to Be Quiet. That's pretty much going to be inaudible for most people, especially considering that you have other things in the computer case, and your computer case is probably going to be about 2 to 3 feet away from you at least. In terms of the panel designs, I really like how all of these panels basically just pop off. You don't have screws, just these mushroom pins, I guess you'd call them. You basically pull it towards you, then lift up just a little bit, and you can take the entire panel off. This applies for the glass panel, as well as the rear panel, and also the top panel. I also really like that that rear panel is mostly mesh, so we definitely have some breathability back there for stagnant heat or just because you don't really have any fans back there. As for the back side of the case, we have 2 different PSU mounting locations, which is kind of nice. I don't often see that with pretty much any other case. I like that the evolution of the fan hub tray that Be Quiet has installed in quite a few of their cases has gotten to this point. You can either mount the fan tray on top with the PSU on the bottom, or reverse those so you have the PSU on top and the fan tray on the bottom. The included fan hub supports 12 total fans with ARGB support, and there's a front I/O button for manual control. I really think the inclusion of this really ups the value of the LX series case. I definitely think this is going to be a really good value if you're looking to build a slick gaming PC, especially at the price point that the LX series case is coming in at. As for working on the back side of the case, there's plenty of room. We have really good cable management. I think the routing options make a lot of sense, and they do help minimize the amount of cable that's actually visible when you're looking at the PC. Definitely something to think about when you shop for a case that you're going to show off. In terms of storage options, most of us are going to be loading up those M.2 slots, but we do have a 3.5-inch hard drive slot and two 2.5-inch SSD positions. This case is interesting in that it doesn't look that big at first glance, but it does measure in at about 432 millimeters long, 305 millimeters wide, and 436 millimeters tall, including the feet. This space is used relatively efficiently in my opinion, and I really do like the overall look of this case. We're coming in at about 24 pounds, which really isn't too bad for a case with so much tempered glass. And that being said, all of the panels are nice and sturdy. Of course, there's no wobble in any of the metal pieces or flex. Be Quiet cases are pretty much known for being high quality, but I didn't have any markings or discolorations or any issues with any of the panels or main casing. It was all very nice quality. Of course, a lot of us are going to horizontally mount our graphics cards, but we do have support for vertical GPU mounting. Basically, you just need to supply the GPU riser cable. As for the component testing, I have my standard Ryzen 9700X test rig in here with the ASRock X670E PG Lightning motherboard, and I used my Asus RTX 4070 Super Dual OC. I'm running 32 gigabytes of G.Skill DDR5 6000 CL28 memory. As for the cooling, I used the Be Quiet Pure Loop 2 280mm AIO up in the top position. Averaging out the 3D Mark Time Spy tests after about 5 runs, I'm pretty much getting the same score for CPU and GPU that this exact same setup got in my Shadowbase 800FX, which is a more traditional, larger style ATX case with 3 140mm front mount intake fans. So considering the performance was basically about the same, I'm pretty happy with that in a case like this that's a little bit smaller. The fans aren't actually dead on pointing straight at the components, because I do kind of prefer the look of this case to the older, more traditional style larger ATX cases. So yeah, I would definitely say this case is very breathable, but I am kind of tempted to chuck some fans in that bottom mount to see if I can get a little bit extra temperature room on that RTX 4070 Super. I want to see if those boost clocks maybe can go a little bit higher. But if you do plan on water cooling, hey, that's another radiator spot if you're interested in it. Like I said, the build quality for this case is excellent. There were no sharp edges, no unpainted surfaces, everything inside looks perfect. And in my opinion, the way the case is built just makes a whole lot of sense for building a nice looking gaming PC inside of it. Right now this case, the LX version with the fans included, is coming in at about $140 on Amazon without any sales or anything. You can get the DX version of this case without the fans a little bit cheaper if you want to save a couple of bucks or use your own fans. But like I said, the LX version is packing a ton of value, especially if you want some ARGB fans that are decent quality. This case does come in black and white, which is a nice plus. I always used to go for black cases, but to be honest, after building in a couple of white cases, they're really growing on me. If you want to learn more about the Lightbase 500 DX or LX cases, I'll leave an affiliate link or two in the description below, so head down there and check that out. I'd appreciate it if you could smash that like button if you got value out of this video. If you're interested in more gaming PC or tech content, make sure to get subscribed to the channel and ring that bell for notifications. Until next time, keep on gaming.